50 years ago, on November 10th, 1975, the Edmund Fitzgerald vanished into the dark, churning waters of Lake Superior.
Yeah, that fierce storm that night, it directly resulted in the sinking of the Fitzgerald and the loss of 29 crew members on board.
Recreating that historic storm lies in the data hidden in decades-old weather records, ship logs, and handwritten observations that live right here in Northwest Ohio. Here's Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers with the story.
Out beyond the point there, we were taking water 6 feet high right across our deck.
They were right in the section with the max wind speed and the max wave height, so just the worst of all possible outcomes, essentially.
The last time I talked with him, he said he was holding his own.
November 10th, 1975, the day that changed Great Lakes history. To understand and recreate the historic storm that ultimately sunk the Edmund Fitzgerald, I visited the archives at the BGSU Jerome Library, the only place that houses official weather records from the long-closed National Weather Service here in Toledo and handwritten ship logs. This page right here says November 9th, 1975.
Correct, the day before the sinking, and as you can see, even in Lake Erie, it was a very calm day.
Mark Sprang, an archivist who has spent years studying Great Lakes history, has uncovered original weather observation logs from other ships that fateful night. What he's found reveals just how quickly conditions deteriorated.
It was just the complete wrong combination of circumstances. The speed of the storm, the weather reports weren't always keeping up fast enough for how fast the conditions were changing.
The Fitzgerald smoothly set sail from near Duluth on the morning of November 9th. At 2:39 p.m., a gale warning was issued. Captain McSorley knew the storm was coming. The Fitzgerald and her sister ship, the Arthur M. Anderson, had altered course.
They went along the north shore of Lake Superior because that's where the wind was initially coming from, and then it shifted completely the other way, so they were completely exposed.
Conditions deteriorated quickly on the morning of November 10th.
We get to 2909 by 2:30 on the 10th, so that's a huge change.
In modern meteorology, we have a term for such rapid intensification, a bomb cyclone. The pressure drop measured at Sault Ste. Marie was incredible, and it happened faster than anyone expected.
You could see these rapid drops in pressure, rapid increases in wind speed, wave height, especially from some of these stations on the east end of Lake Superior, because that meant the wind had the whole length of the lake to grow those waves.
These lake weather bulletins were radioed between captains, creating a real-time network of weather observations across all 5 Great Lakes. Crucial weather data for the times. At 2 a.m. on November 10th, the storm was rapidly gathering strength. The gale warning was upgraded to a more dire storm warning. The storm center passing just over eastern Lake Superior just after daybreak. By 2:30 that afternoon, according to ship logs on the Great Lakes, conditions had become extreme. Winds over 60 miles per hour, gusts to hurricane force, and 20-foot waves were reported, easily high enough to wash over the decks of loaded freighters.
And they're right there where the X is, right on the edge of the purple, which is the worst place to be.
The Arthur M. Anderson, a 767-foot iron ore carrier, had been traveling in tandem with the Fitzgerald through the voyage and through the worst of the storm. The two ships were in constant radio contact as the conditions worsened. Captain Cooper, watching his radar screen, could see the Fitzgerald about 10 to 15 miles ahead. At approximately 7:10 on November 10th, Captain Cooper made contact one final time. McSorley's voice crackled through the storm. "We are holding our own." Those would be the last words anyone would ever hear from the Edmund Fitzgerald. Minutes later, at the peak of the storm, in the midst of a heavy snow squall and a series of massive rogue waves, the Fitzgerald vanished from the Anderson's radar. No distress signal, no survivors. The Fitzgerald sank suddenly in Canadian waters just north of Whitefish Point. Now in 530 feet of water, where it rests as a gravesite and memorial to this day.
Whew. Now, in the aftermath of the disaster, shipping industry groups, they have lobbied for dramatic improvements when it comes to weather forecasting.
Captain Cooper of the Arthur M. Anderson, the last person to see the Fitzgerald, worked directly with the National Weather Service to identify gaps in weather coverage.
To this day, there has never been a ship this large lost on the Great Lakes. WTOL 11 will continue our exclusive weekly coverage leading up to the 50 years since the Fitz sunk this November.
Follow all the coverage on WTOL 11 and anytime on WTOL 11 Plus. Fascinating.
Absolutely.